How do you feel about electric cars?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Not so awesome in what it means for sort of do-it-yourself mentality.
Okay.
You can't. I mean, it's just a different skill set. If you wanted to build up an electric car for like performance, for racing or something, you can't tune your motors so much, your electric motors, and I mean, unless you can completely.
Yeah.
But it's a different skill set.
Sort
It's
of
not
stuck with the way you want. They're serving a purpose of their own, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like, obviously the performance of electric motors are like unparalleled. They're awesome because they can give. Whereas with your normal like gas powered engine, you've got your peak power, and your peak torque is made at a certain place in the rev range. So you like rev up your car, and when you get to a certain amount of revs, that's where you're making the most power.
Okay.
Whereas your electric motors, you're getting your max power from zero.
Right.
So they can give all of that torque instantly from anywhere in the rev range.
So is that why Tesla can go the speeds it can go?
Exactly.
Damn.
That's why they take off like a fucking
Yeah.
rocket.
Shit, that's
Actually,
crazy.
I went for a ride and there's a guy, like a taxi man that's just got a Tesla. And I think he's just running.
In Dunedin.
Yeah,
Sick.
it's just like a solo operation.
I didn't know there were Teslas in the country.
There's a few down here that I've seen. They look so nice. But I hopped in and I was like, oh, like no, nice Tesla, mate. and he loved it.
Yeah.
He loved people talking about his car, I guess.
Yeah. Obviously
But he
bought it for a reason.
he took off and far out, ridiculous. You're at a set of lights. By the time when the light goes green, you're already going 50k by the time you pass the opposite set of lights at the intersection.
That's so far.
It's like 15 meters, and you're
Fucking
just
hell. Does that'll take a toll on you in the vehicle? You'll get shunned back.
you feel it.
Yeah.
It pushes you back in your seat. The seats are comfy though. They're very supportive.
I can't say I've ever been in a car that's gone speeds like that. No, like, obviously there's not a lot that can do that, but
Yeah.
I've never really had that experience in a vehicle where I've gone at like racing speeds.
It's thrilling, especially when you've got trust in whoever's driving.
Yeah, for sure.
It can either feel super scary, or personally, like the first time I hopped in a car that was like properly fast, and then they just took off in a straight line. And I was pushed back in the seat. I just giggled for so long. It was
Giddy about it.
I was quite
man, I
quite
can
young,
imagine
but
it's
I was like, wow,
pretty exciting.
that's a feeling.
Yeah, for sure. So this guy with the Tesla, you have to have a specific charging station for a Tesla, don't you?
I'm pretty sure you can charge
Can you
it
get
like
a home station.
yeah. You can plug it into your wall outlet or
Yeah.
something. Or you might even have to get something special installed, like in your garage or something.
Yeah,
with
for sure.
Like 3-phase power
Yeah.
or something. But I think because Tesla's trying to set up their supercharger network, which really interesting business model. So you can use these superchargers, which charge your car super fast, but you've got to pay a subscription for them. Or if you spend enough money on a spec'd out car, you get it for free.
Oh, really?
So there's none in Dunedin at the moment, but there's a few in Christchurch and heaps in the North Island, I think. But yeah, I think that's really cool. I'd love an electric car. Just
Yeah.
obviously I don't want to be burning gas when I'm
For sure.
not.
My friend Casey Munro was on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he actually brought something to my attention that I wasn't very aware of about how they're great in what they can do, and it's good to get away from the fuel waste, but they, in their own entity, are actually a fairly harmful thing to the environment as well, just with it being a massive battery and the whole e-waste sort of thing as well. Can't remember exactly what it was that about them that is that bad environmental-wise, but it doesn't sound like it's exactly the next step up from petrol engines.
No, not at all. And I think that's it's funny how it's being pushed. Like car manufacturers and like governments are offering subsidies on like road user fees for electric cars, but which sort of gives the impression that electric cars is the way of the future.
It's like vaping, right?
Exactly. But yeah, the amounts of lithium and cobalt that you need to produce all those batteries
Shitload, right?
is insane. So you can imagine how many cars are on the road in the world. It's billions and billions and billions. To produce 1 billion electric cars, which by today's standards in a few years isn't a huge. It's a fucking huge number of cars, but like by production standards today, that will happen soon enough. Another billion cars will be out. To produce 1 billion electric cars, you need something like 3 times the Earth's actual natural resources
Yeah.
for making these batteries, which is absurd.
That is absurd.
So I don't know what's going to happen because
Well-
none of these things are sustainable.
No, and there's nothing you can take aside from like the materials in the body of a vehicle to make a new electric car out of, because you've got to make the battery for that electric car, which comes from something completely different again.
Exactly.
So what is the future of cars?
I don't know. Honestly, I see.
Water?
See, this is real interesting. I read something ages ago about some guy who'd made a car that supposedly ran on like pressurized air, and it used this really novel little engine. Not very powerful at all, but you'd fill up this massive pressurized tank to like 10,000 psi or some ridiculous amount of pressure, and that'd get you like a couple of 100 k's of range around town, which is nuts. And if you used a like a really tiny petrol engine to continue pressurizing air into this tank, you could get like 600 k's of range
Oh, wow.
out of like $4 of gas,
Shit.
which is nuts.
Yeah.
But
The tank's going to be pretty
the
big.
the business, this is quite a few years ago now, all of a sudden sort of just disappeared
Yeah.
off the face of the earth, and the guy was never heard from again,
Oh, really?
which seems very common. I think there's quite a few like inventors of technologies like this that have sort of just
Dropped off.
gone missing, which
Interesting.
is
We're getting into some
probably
conspiracies,
pretty
aren't we?
typical of big oil, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you're threatening a multi-trillion-dollar
Yeah,
business
right.
with
That's so
something
true.
with something that's so cheap and easily able to be implemented. They don't want that happening.
Wow. So there's no story behind this guy. He's just gone.
He's gone. Yeah, he left. Which is
It's pretty unfathomable.
quite sad, actually.
Yeah.
And there's been a few other like different sort of cases with similar sort of technologies that have just been bought out instantly by the oil companies for millions and millions of dollars, and just been shelved.
So we're just never going to progress then.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of power to have over someone, like an opposition, rather. You know,
Yeah.
that's it's just never going to happen, at least anytime soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly, I keep thinking about being like, what, maybe 60 or 70 or something, and the oil's finally gone. All of it's gone, and there's just complete like societal
not
collapse.
unrealistic, man.
Complete societal collapse, and there's just no cars.
Yeah.
Because there's the batteries and all the electric cars that were made in the next 15 years are all busted.
Yeah.
And the economy's collapsed, so there's no companies investing into technology because it wasn't going to make them money in the first
Yeah,
place.
right.
It's quite sad, actually.
Yeah, man. The future's not looking too bright. Is it?
No, not too bright.
I mean, I find that so fascinating how, like, everything that we have, everything that's in front of us here now, even, has come from the earth. Everything that's some way or another, everything that's here has been produced from materials that have come from the earth. When is it going to get to a point where there's just none left? And obviously you can sort of recycle things and things get thrown out and sort of get put back into stuff, but not a lot. Not a lot. And especially
not a
like with these
lot.
batteries, you've got to mine all of this lithium and everything that needs to go into these batteries. That needs to come from somewhere. When do you run out? And like,
Soon, I think.
it's crazy to think that, there's an endless supply of something, because there can't be. There can't be an endless supply of something unless it's naturally produced
At a consistent rate.
yeah.
Renewable.
Yeah, like water.
Yeah.
We get rain, so we get more of that. I don't know the full logistics of that, but that's something that is
The
is
water
recurring.
cycle is pretty self-sustaining.
Yeah, for sure. But like all the metals and things in the earth, there's going to get to a point where it's like, well, you've used it all. Like, if you want to make something else out of metal, you need to break down another metal object, because there is nothing left for you to use,
And
And the same with oil. There will eventually be no oil left because it's all been burned away.
Yep.
So what do you do?
I find it so funny how it's decidedly like a logistics thing, that it's easier to get like metal ore out of massive like just deposits of silt and shit way down in the depths of the earth. But it's like preferable to, and if apparently more cost effective to do that than literally any of the metal that's probably in a, I don't know, more complete state than it was when it left the earth.
It's ridiculous, eh? And you think there'd be things in place to, I'm sure there are, but perhaps not at the capacity that it should be, where you can actually break down or burn these things that are like, I think about all the waste that happens working in a hardware store, all of these things that get bought. There's a consistent need for, like ladders, for example. People are always coming in, and we sell ladders all the time. But, if people are buying new ladders all the time, there's going to come a point where you're obviously buying a new ladder because your other one's broken. So where is that ladder going?
Yeah, where's the
and
broken
then
ladder?
when, like you can't constantly be producing new ladders. Like they eventually run out. Like and obviously in a huge time scale, they'll eventually run out of aluminium that you can dig up from the earth. So you're going to have to start going back to those ladders that you've already built things out of. Like
Hunting through the garages
I
for
don't
everyone's old
understand.
ladders.
Oh, God, it's like it's so important to be buying things secondhand like that. And I do it because I don't want to have to pay full price for something. So I just don't have the money. But there's some sort of, there's got to be some sort of, I guess, demand for, or it'll probably become inevitable that you'll have to buy things secondhand, because this product cannot be made anymore because there's nothing to make it out of.
Without a doubt.
That's a weird thought, and obviously like our size relative to the size of the Earth is pretty like crazy. Like you could definitely find a source of something in another part of the world that could last for years and years and years. But still, years and years and years will eventually conclude.
It'll
and you'll
always
still have
run out.
nothing. Like I don't think it's anything that's going to happen in our lifetime. Perhaps the fuel thing. I don't know how bad that's looking, but there's still going to become a point where these resources are just gone, and you're going to have to reuse what has already been made.
Yeah.
We're just going to eat the earth away.
Yeah, it's happening.
In the big picture.
And it's far worse than any of us realise. I think the oil thing's quite soon.
Oh yeah, that sounds
relatively.
Like it. Yeah.
Or the price of it skyrockets.
Yeah.
Or that'll be it. It's so scarce that the price of it just skyrockets so much
Absolutely.
that your average Joe can't use any
Yeah.
gas-powered thing, and it's just left for...
And this whole COVID situation has been interesting in the fuel side of things, like the amount of pollution that was saved when all these roads were closed, people having to stay home.
Lack of air travel.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
That's insane. So that goes to show, like, it's so interesting how, like, if this hadn't have happened, we wouldn't have known how much pollution is really doing,
The price of oil.
the earth.
The price of oil went negative for the first time in history.
Crazy,
to like
eh?
negative $4 something a barrel,
That's
which
insane.
that's ridiculous.
But that just proved, like, you can actually make a change, even if it's minute. Like, you completely stopped all vehicles being on the road, and that showed that there was actually improvement in, or how much pollution was reduced because of that. So it's like you can actually change, but in such a mass like that, it's just never going to happen. And once people get their freedom back, it's just inevitable.
People see themselves as insignificant in the grand scheme of things, and
it's so easy to
as a result are so unwilling to change.
Yeah.
Unless unless everyone else either wants to or is made to.
Yeah.
Which we saw in the whole lockdown thing.
Yeah.
See, I feel like lockdown was really good for people in general. I feel like people were sort of connected to what they wanted to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
What they're doing with their lives outside of,
Oh,
the
100%.
day to day.
I did that exactly. Yeah.
And you're sitting in your house and you're thinking, what am I actually wanting to do? Like with myself and with my time.
Yeah.
If I'm getting paid out $490 a week, so I can live, I can pay my rent, I can buy food. There's nothing open. There's no shops, so I can't fill an imaginary void with consuming. I'm just left with the things I have and myself.
Oh, I save so much money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's scary. You realize how many things you do actually buy that you don't actually need.
Oh, yeah.
Like, all you really need to do is pay your rent and buy your food. And that's
Exactly.
was pretty much it. And that's what I was doing, and ended up saving so much because of that.
And probably weren't any worse off for it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, it should have been a wake-up call. And for the first few weeks where we were able to do things again, go out and shop again, I did sort of realize, okay, I can actually, salvage a lot of what I'm buying. That's not the word I was looking for. Ration.
Yeah.
What I'm buying, and actually stretch out my grocery buying. But I haven't stuck with that.
It's hard to.
Yeah.
It's especially when you get caught up in the really little insignificant bits of day-to-days that seem to be far more important than they really are.
Exactly. Yeah. With this level 2 announcement today, I mean, I definitely see us potentially coming back to that scenario again. I don't think it's going to be just 3 days. I think we'll definitely see another week or so.
I think it's 3 days is
time for them to soften the blow.
Yeah, exactly. And to actually give themselves time to sort out what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. I feel like the choice is from a preventing the spread of the virus standpoint. The choice is obvious.
Yeah.
But it's not. That's not what we have to worry about. It's the backlash.
Sure.
Of the population.
You're not going to announce the country, all right, we're going straight to level 4, everyone, stay home.
Yep, and especially after the economic windfall.
Oh, yeah, you can piss some people off.
And it's we're coming up to election season.
Yeah.
They've got to tread very carefully.
Mm-hmm.
Anything they do now could be a make or break.
Oh, of course, she's going to change the election time right before election. Yeah.
Oh, yep. Personally for me, I think another lockdown would be great.
It'd be an eye opener for sure.
Time off work. I've
Oh yeah, it's like that for a lot of people.
I've got some money saved up.
Yeah.
So I can live, and I feel like after having the experience of the first one, I feel like I could really use the time of isolation to further myself and further what I actually care about doing.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting because the first lockdown was sort of like figuring out how to be in lockdown.
Yeah.
I never had to experience anything like that. And if a second one came up, you'd be like, okay, I know how I can use this time now, and sort of jump straight into it. At least some people are going to be thinking that. Obviously, it's not the same situation for everyone. Some people will obviously be very disappointed to go into it.
Some people are going to be, if we were to go into another lockdown, like a full lockdown, obviously that's affecting lots of people's livelihoods and how they're actually able to survive. And it's understandable that the government won't be able to provide as they did throughout the first one,
right?
Which was, I was quite surprised actually. There was a very comprehensive sort of COVID relief sort of bailout thing. What, $525 to everyone who was employed.
Crazy, yeah.
Which is nuts. That's crazy. But I don't know what they'd do next time, because obviously now they have to face the judgments of people who already have it quite hard as a result of being jobless and like having to keep their kids home from school and just the complete upheaval of normality.
Yeah.
Especially from the fiscal point of view, which unfortunately is a large part of how everyone views the government, is the monetary side of it.
Yeah, I mean, and you have no idea how much money
unfortunately it has to be because of the way the system is set up.
Yeah, it's, for sure.
It's money is scarce.
Yeah.
For the masses.
Yeah. It's crazy to think how much, I don't know how it's working in America, but they have been in this lockdown for months. And I don't know how, like, they get to the point where, I don't know how much money the American government has. I don't know if anyone does, but, you know, there's only so much in there that they have to give out, I'm sure. And it gets to the point where you're just giving money away to people. You either can't anymore, and those people become jobless or homeless. How can you afford to pay these people in a place where no one is actually abiding by the rules? Like, there's the huge chunk of those people want their freedom and are like, they're pretty much back to, they're doing what they want to be doing. There's no lockdown.
Yeah,
people are going out to bars and things because they're
freedom.
Open. Yeah, it's just it's a weird world that we're in at the moment.
Yeah, I think. See, that's the thing though. Like with how much money the American government has, technically it has negative 14 trillion. But
really,
yeah, therefore, like I think it's around $14 trillion in debt.
No shit.
Which is obviously it's incomprehensible. There's there's no way you can ever conceive anything like that.
It's an absurd amount of money.
Yeah, the whole America, man. The whole economic system is quite literally rigged to, obviously, just to put money in the pockets of the business owners and the entrepreneurs. I remember reading or seeing somewhere there was some very, very vital laws in the 70s that were repealed when lobbying first became a really big thing.
Right.
And that put that was the first instance that put legislation in the hands of business owners. And as soon as you get that happening with lobbyists paying huge sums of money to put politicians in their pockets, that's the downfall of democracy.
Right.
And there's papers coming out. There had been papers coming out, reports to the government in times of business crisis, saying that there is too much democracy. Like the working class is not consuming anymore, as much anymore. This needs to be stopped.
Right.
And that's written. That's written in official documents. After the 60s, when there was huge social unrest and the women's rights movement was huge. The black rights movement was huge, and people were boycotting businesses and organizing and unionizing as well.
Right.
And it was one of the worst years for big business on record. And they put legislation together and edited the bills that had been passed to make sure that wealth was evenly distributed. They just stripped that right back. Right. And it was the initial things that allowed that little bit more power to be put into the business owners' pockets, which then snowballs into them having more and more power because they can change the laws that allow them to have more power,
Right.
which with that power they can do the same thing ad infinitum, and we have 2020 and the state of American economics at the moment, which is it's just
Crumbling.
what was it? This company I was reading about.
I'm just going to pee, man. Hold that
Yeah,
thought.
please.
Please pee.
What I was going to say before,
Yeah, please.
I think I remember. General Electric, which is one of the biggest American companies, used to make, well, most of their revenue was from manufacturing within the States.
Right.
And over the last few decades, they now like 60% of their profits or of their revenue in general is it's made literally by doing funny tricks with money.
Right.
Like just pushing money around through the system. There's literally nothing being added to the economy at all. There's no like labor force. There's no like manufacturing. There's no
Like they're investing the money, or
yeah. It's just playing silly games and
right.
you know like playing the economic system with all the as you said like just investing in
Yeah. So this is a company that doesn't actually provide a service. Is that what you're saying?
They do provide a service, but they're all it's just financial services, which at that scale, it's not like holding people's money or being a bank or anything.
Yeah.
It's just like lines of credit and crazy investment banking that
Yeah, man.
is with money that no one actually has. It's just numbers and
That's what gets me, man.
and like with this like what I was saying about the oil crisis. People made millions and millions off that by literally doing nothing. They just had some money and put it here and then took it and moved it back and
Yeah, right.
then they're this much richer and nothing's being added to the economy. It's only the expense of
Yeah.
well the GDP goes up and the line keeps getting higher.
Sure.
But no one's better off for it.
Yeah.
It's quite
Interesting concept, eh?
yeah.
I can't get my head around like how like banking works where you just have a number sort of in your bank. If you don't have cash, you've got a number that's in your bank. And how that number seems as though it is just a number and that money becomes obsolete at that point. This is obviously not how it is. This is just how I sort of think of it when I try to fathom how it all works. For me to like, if I was to transfer you $50, all that seems like is happening is that my number has gone down by 50 and your number has gone up by 50. The only factor that comes into play is that if you want to go to the bank and get that $50 out, they have to provide that to you.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
my thought is like, if it is just a number, it's just an authority. What's the word I'm looking for? Someone in control or of a higher power that is allowing you to make that number higher or lower.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, what's stopping someone from just typing in a number that worked at the bank and just giving me like another $1,000? You know, it probably sounds really stupid, and obviously there's some logic behind it, but that's just how I perceive it. You know, it is just a tallied number inside of an account that I put a password in.
That's the theory.
Yeah.
No, like I don't know if you know of any Noam Chomsky. He's just one of the he's a great American intellectual. It was like a really what did he lead? He led like the anti-war protests throughout the 70s in the States. And he's awesome, really really cool. Dead now, but he calls them the masters,
Right.
and they're the people like financial institutions and stuff, there's nothing of value really being done for the general populace. It's just throughout all these tiny little like loopholes in laws and like ridiculously complicated like formulas that are applied to economics. They can just make money and line their pockets.
Right.
And the system is set up so that they are enabled to do that. All the while, the general populace is working for their wages, and it's so flawed, and it seems like now that it's going to be really, really hard to change that, because in the past, changes to structures like that have been because of huge like radical movement and people organizing and just taking action against this. But I feel that the internet and the presence of the internet in our lives and how we see talking to people and organizing, it's not physical, and I feel like it provides the platform to talk about it, but it also, you're sitting at home and arguing over stupid little, like tiny little insignificant things about what might be right or more right or wrong, whereas that's exactly what it's designed to do. It's designed to keep you at like one another's throats instead of unifying with like in America especially. The idea of workers' unions are almost like it's almost unheard of. Unionizing is it's vilified. If you talk about unionizing with any especially people that work in the financial sector or that are up in like high management or something, it's like looked down upon with such immense distaste almost instantly, whereas the best times in the working classes history has been when there's been really strong workers' unions, which is really funny. And I think America is one of the only places within the similar countries that doesn't have unions. There's no workers' unions.
So they just perceive it as a, rise up against the employer.
Yeah, and that's so ingrained in how their constitution, or how they perceive that.
So there's no, it's all based around sort of lawsuits and that sort of thing. If you do come into a scenario in your workplace where you're, say, being mistreated or underpaid or something,
exactly,
it's not done through union. It's done through
you go through the court system, which is
also flawed.
Yes, so fucked.
Yeah.
And like that, as a result, it pits you against your fellow workers because you're competing for you're competing for the jobs, and you're competing for everything's what's the word? Everything's presented to be a competition.
Sure.
To keep you from exactly like unifying and actually commonly coming together against the systems and the people that are causing you and your fellow working class people the most discomfort in your life.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's really, really interesting.
It is interesting. I didn't realise that. I didn't realise that wasn't a concept over there, but sort of makes sense because the whole concept of a union was fairly foreign to me when I started employment. I didn't really know much about it, and I suppose no one really does until you're, I guess, offered that or told about that whilst you're in employment. But I mean, I've never really thought that was something I ever needed to be a part of. I mean, I am in employment where I'm treated fairly and feel like I could, bring up any issues that I had with no fear involved. So I don't feel like I have to be part of a union. I've never been against them, and I understand why they're there, and I'm totally for that. But personally, never been in a scenario where I thought I've needed to be part of a union. And I think the only time I think I would consider that would be if there was a scenario in which that I was getting treated unfairly or whatever it was, and I had no way of actually, I had spoken up, but things were sort of happening behind my back, or it had gone to sort of a higher power that I could not argue, but I still thought I was treated fairly, and I sort of needed backup, I suppose. I think that's the only time I could see myself being a part of that. But I guess like in America, like if you, well, not specifically for America, but I guess in general, if we're talking about unions, like if someone individually is talking to their employer about, what if they're treated unfairly or whatever the scenario is going to be, and that employer has to cater to that one person because they're sort of getting up in arms about something, like you say, it sort of puts takes you aside from your other employees, that they're getting treated unfairly, because if they've done something and gotten compensated for it, why can't we get compensated for it as well? It's such a weird dynamic to have, I suppose, in a workplace.
Exactly. And I feel like it's the culture behind that enforces the look out for yourself, like look out for yourself mentality.
Yeah.
So you're not thinking about the systems and the people that are so astronomically far above what you can think of.
Yeah. And in American culture and New Zealand culture are quite contrasting in that regard. Like, I think Americans have sort of a sense of entitlement, and, they live in a free country, they always say. And
something really interesting, America is one of the only places in the world where if you do something and someone says you're anti-American, it's one of the, you're anti this country. It's such an authoritarian statement, and it's one of the only places in the world where if you said that to someone, you wouldn't just be laughed out. You do something here, and someone says, "Oh, you're anti-New Zealand." It's like, yeah,
it's not
right.
a thing, is it?
Yeah, well, but if that sense of patriotism, I guess, and because American in that sense, I feel like if you want to unionize, people will say that's anti-American.
Yeah, right.
And American in that sense has been deliberately instilled to mean serving that higher power, like the businesses. Right. And like another thing, another law that was changed in the 70s in America is businesses have the same rights as people, which is in a court of law, which is very interesting. So some business can do a deal with some other country, right?
Right.
And since they've got the rights of a person and they've done a deal on their theoretical soil, they have the rights of a person in that country, which is
right.
Really
Could
strange.
You put that into an example,
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure of a specific example, but it's like personal rights.
Yeah.
I don't know what personal rights someone might have.
In terms of a business point of view, you're talking about.
I just find it really strange that some massive company can be awarded the same rights,
right,
as a person.
Yeah. Okay. I see
when this company is personal rights are there to afford a person.
The rights.
Yeah, the rights, like the things that are like the sort of empathetic things that are that inherently should be awarded to someone, you know, and to say that some massive company whose only like existence is to generate profits for a CEO should be awarded the same rights as someone who is living is
absurd. Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
especially like a fraudulent business as well that was doing something, you know, bad to the business or employees or whatever, can have the same rights as what someone,
because
an individual would deserve.
Exactly. At the end of the day, the business model of, especially like with the massive companies, it's how much you can like do over everyone else. Like for profit margins, you pay people the lowest. You're trying to get the best deals, so you might outsource production, which is removing jobs from or removing availability of jobs from the place where the business is actually based, and then underpaying people horrendously in somewhere where labor is cheaper. It's pretty busted.
Yeah,
and
sounds backward.
And I don't. It's quite scary because I don't think the sort of social and political climate, especially in the States at the moment, which it's unfortunate that the States sets an example for most of the Western world. There's like lots of, especially like concerning the drug referendum, a lot of the comparisons that have been drawn from to relate to what it would be like here is taken from American examples, which I feel like would be so different. And I feel like it's dangerous. It doesn't
always translate down.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it's dangerous to be taking so many, like to be drawing so many comparisons for things that will influence life in our country from somewhere like America, which is
not a perfect
it's
place.
very different.
Yeah,
it's very different.
Sure. Yeah. It's not exactly an example country to be basing any sort of political decisions off, at least at the moment.
But I can't see any way for it to change.
No,
because it's like the two-party system. It's
pretty limiting.
It's not like two parties that represent two different peoples. It's effectively the same people, like two sides of the same neoliberal coin that they represent the same interests. Just yeah.
Interesting,
and they're all sort of protecting each other, or it's just protecting their own class because they see themselves as like the political elite. It's the same as the business elite because they're all in cahoots, so they're all bought out, and it's all just exchanges of huge amounts of money and like services that link them all together.
Yeah.
Like there's no real difference between like the modern day Republicans and the Democrats. It's just so similar.
Yeah.
And they appeal to the masses with the social elements that they convince people is what they should care about being so different.
Yeah.
And that's what divides people.
Yeah.
But the fiscal policy is all the same. It's just status quo.
For sure. Yeah, it's hard. Your point about having the two parties, it's pretty limiting, and at least in comparison to what we have here, there's usually sort of the top two in contention, but you've got tons of other parties in play too.
We have seats in there's seats in Parliament. If you get over 5% of the national vote, you get guaranteed seats in Parliament. I think the system we have, the like electory system MMP is quite good. I think it's one of the better ones that exists. Obviously, it's still flawed because a democracy and a true and fair democracy, in the sense of what the word actually means, depends on obviously everyone having their say. And everyone doesn't have their say because of how voting is presented as a concept to society. It's like you're voting for the two parties, and you get the people that say, I don't go into politics. It's like being not into politics is inherently very political, because you're voting really hard for exactly how it is right now.
That's so true, man. I've never thought of myself much as a political person, but I've never said I've been against politics. Not a political person in the sense that I don't understand a lot of what goes on. Not necessarily that I'm against it all, or, not bothered by anything. It's just I don't, a lot of the time, really know what things mean or why something is good or bad in the context of what that's doing to the country. It's not something I have a lot of expertise on.
And I feel like it's really easy for it to be such a turn off to people who, like, because you think about politics and you don't think about the choices that are made for the people in our country. You think about politics and the politicians and like the people who have come out of law school or something, and there's
a stigma around
and it's their, like, Judith Collins is a good example. She's been doing politics for fucking years and years and years and years and years, and I feel like it's just because when you want someone to lead the country who's looking out for the people, but I feel like when you get people like that running for parliament, this is the culmination of her career. She's been working at it's winning the game, It's all a big game of all these little rules and customs and culture within, like, New Zealand politics for one, and she just wants to win the game. That's the dangerous part, because it's like it's a career.
It's especially these days, because there's so many ways to, I guess, expose people, and there's so many like games that are being played to sort of get attention, and it sort of just takes away from the whole point of what should be trying to be achieved, and it just ends up in this sort of whirlwind.
I think this is a funny belief of mine. I think the idea of politics and, like, the choices that are made for the betterment of the country and the people at large, those choices being made by people who want to do that with their life for a career, I feel like that's inherently flawed, because I feel like the people that are going to make the best choices with empathy at heart and with transparency as one of their core values, they're not the people who want to do that job.
Right.
I feel like the people that do want to do that job are the people who are more inclined to playing the game and, being in politics.
Yeah, for sure.
Which you have to be. There's very specific qualities you have to be able to excel in modern day politics.
For sure. Oh, there'll be so many people that are meant to be in that sort of position, and could easily do that job and run a country very well. But it's like, I have this theory, and this is not politics related, but I have this theory that, Usain Bolt, the fastest man in the world, right? He's the fastest man that has decided to do athletics and run that race and win it. Like, I wouldn't call him the fastest man in the world. Like I like to think that there is someone else out there that is faster than him if they applied themselves and were in that
exactly.
field.
I
And it's
reckon-
the same thing with politics. Like you have these people that are meant to be there doing this thing, but there's going to be someone else there that's better. You could apply that theory to anything, but that's just made me think of that when you said that there are definitely other people that could run the country very
Yeah,
well.
and it's those. I feel like the people that inherently have the best temperament and sort of ideals to be doing that successfully are the people who don't want to, navigate the political system. Because it's such a,
Very broad.
it's so clicky, and it's like
Yeah.
it's just it's a big social game,
Yeah.
and I
Being a politician,
I detest it.
just that alone, being a politician, can put people off being politicians. You know, like there could be someone well educated and easily, know the job and what should be done and what shouldn't be done, but just don't like the idea of being in the public eye in that way and sort of having a large portion of people against them for whatever reason. And it's just, that's I imagine it's a very stressful job.
Yeah, incredibly so.
Yeah.
I also find it very funny how the people who are tending to want to be leaders of countries and states are business owners, like CEOs of companies.
It's ironic, yeah.
Which-
Well, not ironic, but interesting because they have a certain mentality of how things should work, and it's not always translatable to in a political.
I think trying to run a country like a business is inherently wrong.
Yeah.
Especially because the way the business people perceive business now, like business is making a profit, and there's a very clear way that you run a business within our current economic climate to succeed, and it's all about allocating money rather than focusing on more people-oriented solutions.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a quick bathroom
Yeah,
break.
go for it, man. Something I haven't heard you talk about for a long time is music. I know you were quite a
okay.
prolific music maker when we first met, at least had heard about a lot of things that you'd done music-wise, and we chatted about that quite often, but I haven't heard you talk anything about that recently. Is that something that you are vaguely interested in at the
Oh
moment?
no,
Even
completely!
at all?
Like so much.
In terms of the production aspect, I mean.
Production.
Yeah.
That's actually something that I don't know, unfortunately left behind so much. I haven't done any like purely like electronic music for years and years now. Because once I came down here, I sort of settled in a bit, and I started like playing with Pete and Jack,
Yep.
which was incredible. I was much more being swayed to make music with instruments.
For sure.
And I feel like obviously the culture of Dunedin will really do that to you. In Nelson, I didn't have so many people who were on a similar sort of wavelength, so I never ended up like forming a band or playing, like jamming with anyone or anything. So I was just sitting in my room producing music, which was it was really good. It was I'm so glad that was something that I invested a lot of my time in. But
You're really enjoying your time in Fly Spray at the moment?
I am no longer in Fly Spray.
Oh, is that right?
Yes. So
my apologies.
I left Fly Spray would have been at the start of this year.
What?
Yeah. So obviously there hasn't been many gigs and stuff going on
Right.
with the whole COVID thing. But so I'd been with Pete and Jack and Fly Spray for I think it was just over a year.
Yeah.
And then so they talked to me about like, because the times that I was able to make, I finished work at 8 every night, So, and like we can't practice up at Pete's studio until much later than that.
Right.
And I feel like, I don't know, it was like so much fun playing live with them. And they're both like incredible musicians to work with. The music we were playing, although it was, yeah, as I said, so much fun. It wasn't really my vision, which is obvious because it's like I was just drumming for them. It was like Jack's vision.
Jack's music, isn't it?
Exactly, Jack's vision mainly, and I feel like it came to a natural time to sort of draw that to a close.
Okay. Oh, that's a shame, man. I'm sorry. I had no idea that it happened.
It's not so much a shame. I feel like it happened at the perfect time.
Okay.
I can't imagine myself still playing with them now.
Yeah.
We're still like very good friends.
Cool. Well, that's good.
Like I can imagine in some like band situations when someone's asked to leave, it can create a lot of animosity between members. But like they're my great friends.
Cool. I'm glad.
Yeah, like I can't imagine not being fucking homies with Pete.
Yeah.
You know?
Fuck yeah. Oh, it's the nicest guy ever.
Yeah, I fucking love Pete.
So are you looking to then do something on your own in terms of a band setting, or
not
or you're not actively pursuing
not my
music so
own
much?
vision
Right.
so much. Like I'm not setting out to start a band.
Yeah.
I've been more inspired right now than I have been in many years to really like do something musically.
Yeah.
Me and Harry, who I'm flatting with, so he's got some songs written, and it's really, really cool. It's going to be great stuff. And he said like, really just write what you want to it, so I can, like, I'm drumming for it.
Yeah.
So I can take full liberty on. Yeah, like
You've
sort
got some
of,
freedom to
yeah,
work
like
around.
directing
Yeah.
the rhythms that go behind the structure of the songs, which is awesome.
Yeah, for
it's,
sure.
It's like so
anyone
much fun,
wants
and
musical, you know.
I'm so excited. It's
Have
and
fun
it's
with
it's
that.
music that I really, really love. So I'm really excited for that.
Awesome.
Where it's been a long time coming. It's we've all got our own personal commitments.
Yeah.
So it's been slower than we would have liked to get something together because we're all working like huge hours and
Sucks, man, when work gets in the way of the work you want to do.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, I like the paychecks.
Yeah,
it,
for sure.
It provides for my lifestyle.
Oh, 100%.
And I like being able to live nicely, I guess.
Have a bit
but-
of freedom
but-
in that regard too. Yeah.
But the work hours, I'm definitely going to drop down sometime soon or just quit. Maybe go and study, not sure what.
Yeah.
But I've also been like writing a bit of my own music recently, which is awesome.
Yeah,
I
that's
haven't
good.
felt the inspiration to sit down and write for ages.
Fantastic.
And when I've tried, it's been that was a lockdown thing as well. I thought I've been working like 45-hour weeks for the last year, and every time I'm not at work, I'm not wanting to sit down and put in work to that, because it's not something you can just sit down and go, right, I'm going to do this right now.
Yeah.
You've got to, for me personally, I've got to have a fair bit of time to really feel what I'm trying to write. Otherwise it's not something that means anything to me. And I question, why am I writing this, as opposed to literally anything else I could possibly want to write, which I don't know what that is, but like, why this? So to be able to sit down finally and be inspired by what I'm actually putting down is really, really cool, and it only makes me want to do it more.
Of course.
And I'm possibly going to be playing drums in another band quite soon, which
Is more exciting again.
exactly.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah, lots of things going on.
Yeah, it's I feel like it's a bit of a Dunedin's sort of having a resurgence.
Yeah, for sure.
It's sort of it's all happening
That's
again.
something that this COVID situation has done as well, is sort of excited people about the gig scene and, you know, being able to go out and do things again. You sort of take that for granted. So I
Exactly.
think this is a good window for people to start
I feel
really
like
getting amongst it.
Yeah, I feel like lockdown, especially for artists, was like really good just to have that time to, as I was talking about earlier, like just to sit down and reflect on what you're really wanting to do and why you're wanting to do it. And I feel like after we've come out of that and the aftermath of that, now that the social climate is allowing for it, people are really going for it. Like, people are excited to, you know, be like creating stuff and sharing with people, which
hopefully that will be what helps sort of bring the economy back, or, you know, keep it flowing. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
But yeah, I was considering moving up to Wellington next year, which I had been considering for a long time, but I'm now being swayed. Good things are happening, and
a lot of people I've talked to recently have been saying that Dunedin people are comfortable here. Things are happening for people in the city.
Yep.
They don't feel the need to make big moves like that anymore, which was on the table for a lot of people. And I know a lot of people that have made that move as well. Wellington's the place to be. Melbourne's the place to be. Whatever, and that's cool. But if you can make your lifestyle there, absolutely, like, they're fantastic places to be. But you really have to look at where you are and what you can take from where you are, and really seriously consider whether you need to make the move or not. And personally, like, I'm thriving here at the moment, and I think a lot of other people are too. And I think that's awesome. Again, this COVID thing has just been a big eye-opener for a lot of people about what is being done here and what needs to be taken advantage of.
Yeah. Yep. See, that's the thing. I was for a long time, I felt like I had really done what there was to do here. And was getting quite antsy to shift on. But I don't know, maybe it's something that comes with age. I feel like I'm becoming comfortable in what I want to do and how I go about doing it.
Yeah.
And like, obviously this, if I didn't move down to Dunedin, it was going to be Wellington to study. And if I'd gone there instead of down here, I'd be a very, 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 very different person.
Yeah.
Not one that I'd like to think about. So yeah, I'm
grateful for what's happened since you've been here.
So thankful for everything that Dunedin has been able to offer me.
That's what we want to hear.
Yeah.
Look, man, we've been talking for 3 hours.
It's been quite a few.
This is fantastic. Lovely to see you, man. Really appreciate you coming on doing this. This
as
has been
always.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Welcome. All right. Bye, everyone.
See you.